Shalom. I want to give all praises to Yahweh, by Hashem, Yahweh Shah, by Hashem, Rakah, Kodash. Double honor to the apostles and the elders that rule well. And peace and blessing to you brothers out there that's kicking his word, sincerity, and truth. If you've been paying attention of what's going on, in Brazil, there's actually, uh, Brazil is actually implementing martial law in Rio de Janeiro, de Janeiro. Um, we're going to see more of this, here, here in the United States, man. You know what I'm saying? As things get bad, the government is going to issue out martial law to control the masses, man. Because what's going on down there in the South America is, there's this famine and the grinding has ceased. The economies aren't doing well. We see an example of that in Venezuela and also in Brazil, man. And they're implementing that martial law to control the masses because people are in an uproar and people are, taking matters into their own hand, killing and things of that nature for the want of bread, like it's prophesied in Second Esdras, the 15th chapter. So before I read this, I wanted to pull that scripture in Second Esdras, the 15th chapter, and then we'll come back and we'll read this. Now this is Second Esdras 15, and I start at 14. Woe to the world and to them that dwell therein, for the sword and their destruction draweth nigh. And when people shall stand up and fight against another, and swords in their hands, for there shall be sedition among men and invading one another. They shall not regard their kings nor princes, in the course of their actions shall stand in their power. That's right. So that's what we're seeing down there in Brazil, man. People are rising up against one another. You know what I'm saying? Um, killing one another, man. You know what I'm saying? They're not regarding the law. You see? Why is that? But as we once stated, man, it's famine out there. People are losing their mind. You know, I believe Gerald Salente said this: when people lose everything, they lose it. You know, and so to get the masses under control, the people under control down there in Brazil, you have the president, implementing martial law, you know, to control the people ultimately, because we know who created the problem in the first place. You know, this is verse 17. Uh, a man shall desire to go into a city and shall not be able, for because of their pride the city shall be destroyed, and houses shall be destroyed, and man shall be afraid. And man shall have no pity upon his neighbor, but shall destroy their houses with the sword, and spoil their goods because of the lack of bread and for great tribulation. That's right. So because of lack of bread or lack of food, you know what I'm saying? You seeing people, you seeing uproars of the people in Brazil. You see them, robbing tourists, you know, things of that nature, and it's going, those uh videos are going viral. There was actually an incident where you had a cat that robbed somebody, you know what I'm saying, while the news station was filming it, man. Right in broad daylight, in front of the news, didn't give a damn. That's how bad it is out there. Behold, saith the Most High, I will call together all the kings of the earth to reverence me, which are from the rising of the sun, from the south, from the east, and Lebanus, to turn themselves one against another, and repay the things that they have done to them. And that was really on that. Really, we could stop at verse 19. So let's go to the article. Now, this is a Brazilian military takeover. of security in Rio de Janeiro is a looming disaster. Uh, Handing public security to the military is likely to worsen the plight of poor residents who are already subject to the worst of Rio's violence. Uh, Rayo Sao Pablo, Brazilian President Michel Temer made the unprecedented decision Friday to give the country's military uh, all public security responsibility in Rio de Janeiro, the be laggard be beleaguered be, beleaguered city that has been plagued by rising rates of violent crime since it hosted the Olympic Games nearly 2 years ago. Teamer's decision will put the military in near total control of security in Rio through the end of the year, marking the first time a Brazilian president, has mobilized the armed forces to take over a city or uh, state's public security efforts since the country's military dictatorship ended in 1985. The announcement has sent shockwaves across the country, where the uh, prospect of any sort of military intervention is already an unsettling topic for many. And yet, Themer argued in an official statement and again uh, on television Friday that it was the only possible maneuver still available in the desperate time for both Rio and Brazil. After nearly a decade of declining crime rates, Rio has seen a dramatic spike in violent uh, crimes and homicides in the past 2 years. In 2016, the Rio state was home to more than 5,000 homicides, uh, nearly 1,000 killings committed by police. Though it is far from Brazil's most violent area, the second largest but most prominent city in the country has become a barometer for the nation as a whole, which saw its numbers of homicides increase nearly 4% to roughly 62,000 in 2016. By comparison, in 2016, there were around 17,000 homicides in the United States, which was roughly 100 million more, which has roughly 100 million more people than Brazil. So, in Brazil, they have 100 million people less, than America. But look at the homicide rate. It's 62,000, man. That's a lot of people that's dying. You see, there were another 688 shootings in Rio in January, but it is no coincidence that the teamer made the announcement last week at the close of Carnival. As the annual pre-Lent festival ended, videos of tourists being beaten and robbed on Rio streets and beaches circulated online and on Brazilian cable news, driving home the perception that violence in the city has spiraled out of control. You know, and the most I allowed that to happen because people were committing all types of debauchery. You know what I'm saying? Before Lent. You know what I'm saying? Which they do the same thing here. In New Orleans and also in Arkansas, man, they do Mardi Gras. They have Mardi Gras, to where you could get all your sins out and things of that nature, man. So people go down to Brazil and just, commit all types of abominations, man. AIDS is at an all time high there. People buying, all women from, men coming from everywhere, all types of different countries and buying our women up, what I'm saying, whoring them out. You see what I'm saying? And the most I see all this, man, he's putting a clamp down on it. That's what we're seeing. You see? That's what's going on. Uh, there is no doubt that Rio and Brazil in general are in dire need of a policy shift to address the outbreak of violence, but there is little reason for optimism that Timor's plan to send in the big guns of the Brazilian military will work, and the concern around his decisions are plentiful and obvious. Most notably around the mili- allowing the military to take control of Rio for up to 10 months raises the pertinent question about the health of Brazil's democracy some 3 decades after the end of the country's military dictatorship. Since his announcement, there has been open worry in Rio and across Brazil that Timor's military intervention could be a test run for more aggressive military involvement in policing and public security in the future. And there you go, right there. That's exactly what it is. It is a test run. You know, they're doing that. They're allowing the country, these countries in South America to go to hell. You know what I'm saying? Implementing. You know what I'm saying? Martial law. And so when it happens here, man, they're gonna have it down pat. Here in America, they're gonna have it down pat, and it's only a matter of time before it reaches, all that calamity reaches to this place, man. You know, uh, in March, sometime in March, I don't know the exact date. China is to release the petro yuan, which that's going to decrease the value of the American dollar substantially, man. So we're gonna see skyrocketing and start skyrocketing in prices, and also you're gonna see a lot of people just doing, getting how they live, doing their own thing. You know what I'm saying? Not regarding princes. You know, people are gonna, are gonna be hungry, and they gonna people lose everything. They lose it. I believe Gerald Cervantes said that. Forgive me if I'm saying his name wrong. So when we see stuff like this, we rejoice because we know that the end is nigh. You know what I'm saying? And also, we use this as opportunity. This time is grace, opportunity to get ourselves together. For the coming of Yahweh by Shem Shai. You know what I'm saying? Because you know, on his way back, he's going to send a lot of plagues and death and destruction to this place, man. And America hasn't been touched yet. You know, the United States in particular hasn't been touched. It's going to be touched. It's going to be devastating. When it happens. So again, hey, wisdom and knowledge will be the stability of our times. We seen all this stuff happening, seen other places. So we gearing up our minds. Those of us that's in the know, we're gearing up our minds for the atrocities and the temptations that are to come. You know what I'm saying? So, hey, with that being said, all praise to Yahweh, by Hashem Yahweh Shah, by Hashem Wakah Kadash. Double honor to the apostles and the elders that rule well, and peace and blessings to you brothers out there that's kicking his word, and sincerity and truth. Shalom.